Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've done a live and I have my dog and I'm right next to the trail, so we'll see how this goes. I know he's gonna be rambunctious because we haven't been out together in a while because I've been really busy with the planetary planner, which is available for purchase. I'll post a link below. And it goes over all the astrology transits for 2020 that you want to be aware of, the moon cycles. Sorry, my glasses are a little foggy. And some journaling, lots of journaling prompts to really get you in your power and really your vision for yourself for 2020. So it's called 2020 Vision. And as I'm like wiping off my glasses, it's really about knowing what cycles are coming up and how to really get the most out of them based on your chart, based on your astrology, but also just based on the planetary alignments. We're having a lot in 2020, and there's actually one big ingress that happened today, and that's Jupiter moving into Capricorn. So Jupiter has been in its home sign of Sagittarius for the last year. One of my most viewed videos on YouTube is Jupiter's transit through Sagittarius, and some of the things I said in there at the beginning of the year totally happened, and the astrology is pretty amazing like that. So that being said, usually when Jupiter, because it is such a great big, I don't know if I can do not disturb my phone while I'm on here, I'm going to do that. So because Jupiter is such an expansive big planet, when it ingresses into a new sign, we typically feel it. And so in Capricorn, you want to know what house Capricorn or houses Capricorn's in for you to look at some of the insight and expansion that you're about to have, because guess what? It's not just Jupiter in Capricorn. Right now, I looked at the chart this morning, I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot in there. So we have Pluto in Capricorn, we have Saturn in Capricorn, we have the South Node in Capricorn, we have I think Ceres, I have to look, I wish I had written it down, and we have Venus now in Capricorn. And so, like any of this, it's like we'll get a big blast of the energy. So we're getting a big blast of Capricorn as we move closer to Capricorn season. But some of these longer term transits that are in Capricorn have been, so Pluto has been since 2008. If you look at the transitions that we have had in 2008, and Saturn has been there. So this is Saturn's final year in Capricorn, which means that the potency is going to be even stronger. And so when we have these times where we get these longer term transits in a sign, while we have these shorter term transits like Venus and Mercury. Hey Paco, come here. That means that we're getting a big blast of it to prepare ourselves for these longer term transits. And 2020, the reason why I made the planner was looking ahead at the transits that we're having and looking at how much Capricorn energy we're having. And one of the things about Capricorn is it likes to plan and it likes to work with the energy in a way that's sustainable and structured. And so having a planner, it doesn't have to be the planner, but having a structure, a plan, I say that Jupiter in Sagittarius is like so expansive. It's like this remodel on the house that we added on, this addition, but there's no roof on it yet. And so Capricorn's going to lay down the law and create the structure so that the roof can protect and sustain that area that we just rebuilt, that we just expanded in this last year. Some of us might have overexpanded. Some of us might have had experiences where we took on a project or a situation that was just like too big. And so in this year, we're learning how to use those energies. Paco, I'm not going to throw this. We're learning how to use those energies. It's not like that we weren't supposed to expand this last year. It's just that we are now getting the discipline and the structure to create a better system around our success. So Capricorn has to do with work, authority, systems, the government, any of the bigger structures. And it also has to do with perseverance and, restructuring. So when we think about like systems that don't work anymore, Capricorn's going to come in and create the structures that do work. And Capricorn is a feminine sign. It's also a cardinal sign. So a feminine sign means it's more yin, it's more receiving, it's more, even though it is hard work, it's sustained hard work. It's not just rushing ahead and, very egoic. It's in a more, long-term sustaining way. If you think about parenting, a lot of people talk about having a baby. Well, Capricorn's like, for the rest of your life, you're responsible, your responsibilities. All right, fine, I'll throw it. Your responsibilities. And so it's like that longer term, then once you do have a baby, you realize, oh, it's not just having a baby, really. It's about raising a human, and now I have this responsibility for the rest of my life, right? So Capricorn reminds us of that kind of idea around long-term perseverance, sticking with it, and providing that structure. So parenting issues can come up during this time. And I don't mean issues in a way that's negative. I mean in a way to restructure, to re-boundary. And so looking to what house Capricorn's in for you this year is going to be major. And if you do have a lot of Capricorn placements, you want to work with an astrologer. It doesn't matter what astrologer you work with. If you feel called to work with them, because you are getting a major overhaul in all the Capricorn, wherever your Capricorn is, and if you have a lot of Capricorn placements. Okay, so this Jupiter into Capricorn, we're going to do a house by house really quickly. Obviously, this is super brief, so if you want to work with me, also, I'm doing solar return readings, which are recorded readings, which is awesome for a lot of you that don't have a lot of time to sit down and do a full hour reading. So you just, you put in your birth information, you put in your location at your birth date. So that's going to be like, if your birthday's happening that month, then you'll know where you're going to be at. And then you include a few questions. And then I send you a video with your chart and with me talking about your chart and answering your questions and showing you that year, what is kind of being set forth for you. So that's really helpful too, to get some insight into this year. So let's do the house by house for Jupiter in Capricorn. Like I said, Capricorn is a feminine sign, it's an earth sign, and it is a cardinal sign. So it's fresh starts, fresh beginnings, which I know many of us are hoping for. So it's really exciting. And hi, Covery. And so I'm talking about Jupiter's it's actually like a 12-month this time, 12-month transit through Capricorn. And when we think about Jupiter, since it is a 12-month transit, we think about the growth that happens in a baby's first year, like so much growth, right? So that's Jupiter. It's about expansion, growth. And then our first Jupiter return happens when we're 12 or 13, when kids go through that huge growth spurt, when you see them just shoot up, And so thinking about it that way can help you understand what it does, and also when it's in a certain sign, how it's going to expand and bring our awareness to that area of our life. So look to this last year. Look where Sagittarius was for you in your chart, and then see if it rings true. You can go back and watch my video on Jupiter and Sagittarius and understand if that was something that was applicable. And if it was, then you're going to know to want to work with this energy. And if it wasn't, then don't. But so Jupiter in Capricorn through the houses. So the first house, if you have Jupiter, so if you have Capricorn, I'm just going to say, if you have Capricorn in the first house, because this is not only just Jupiter, it's how it's going to interact with the South Node, how it's going to interact with Pluto, how it's going to interact with Saturn, all those planets that are already in Capricorn. So if you have Capricorn in the first house, this is your identity, this is your initiative, this is how you show up. People typically probably think of you as a hard worker, and this is getting an expansive overview, but really the focus is on your self-work, your identity, and how you present. So if you felt like something isn't matching up, also you're going to want to look to see if this is aspecting any other places in your chart. Then you're going to really be doing an overhaul on how you show up in the world, your self-awareness, but also your self-worth, and really presenting yourself in a way that's much more of a stronger presence. And if you have Capricorn in the second house, this is your personal resources and your belongings, and what's expanding for you are those things, but you want to be smart and wise about it. So really looking at budgeting, looking at the long term, looking at maybe investments. This is about you also really creating stronger boundaries with not only money, but your resources, yourself, your energy. So really looking at that this year is going to be big. Third house, if you have Capricorn in your third house, this is someone who really needs to work with words and speaking and trusting their voice and trusting their opinion. And so this year you're expanding on that and you're really getting stronger and trusting yourself more. So it's really important that you work with any kind of like workshop or teacher around speech and writing maybe, and really sharing your message around how systems and structures can work or improve. That would be huge for you. And if you have Capricorn in here, this is Paco. Paco is asking me to throw the stick. So that's why it looks like I'm kind of waking out every few minutes, because otherwise he's going to bark at me. So if you have Capricorn in your fourth house, this is the opposite. So Capricorn typically rules the 10th house, and this is the opposite. So the fourth house is home. And so this might be a time for you to really look at your foundations. You might have had a strong authoritarian parent, you might not, but you had some kind of influence, even if it was just your own inner voice, that could have been kind of harsh or in a positive way. It could have been really helping you to create those boundaries and structures and hard work and discipline. But this year is about going back and nurturing and bringing in like the more of the essence of wonder and nurturing and not play, but really like cozy and love, and bringing in the heart to that discipline and that order that you seek or want, and really making sure that you're nurturing that inner child, so that you have that stronger foundation. Whereas in the following year, once we have Jupiter in Aquarius, and we're going to get this crazy conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. And when that happens for you, that's when you're going to really take off. So know that it's coming, and this year is about prepping for that. Fifth house, if you have Capricorn in your fifth house, and you're having Jupiter transit your fifth house, this is about your creations. It could be about your children. And since we were just talking about Jupiter being about growth and expansion within the physical body and children, if you don't already have children, this might be a time, if you don't want to get pregnant, make sure that you're using birth control. If you do want to get pregnant, it's a really fertile time. But not only a real baby, like I felt like I just gave birth this month to a creation, right? So it's like, it doesn't have to be a literal baby, but there's something where you're wanting to nurture and create that inner muse around really sustaining and playing with the universe and listening to what wants to be created. So if you have that in your fifth house, just know that is what you're supposed to be doing. So don't feel guilty or, not like you're not doing the right thing if you're just either growing a baby and whatever way that looks. And we know that that's not an easy thing. It's not just something that like you just crank it out. It takes time. And so just knowing that that's what's happening, you're creating something. Sixth house, if you have Capricorn in your sixth house, you're going to want to pay attention and improve and find new systems for your health, for your routines, for your rhythms. It also has to do with your pets, which might be why I have Paco out here today, because I'm going to have Capricorn in my sixth house. So you want to be aware of the things that you need to nurture. And a lot of times, one of the things I think about with pets is when you're taking care of your pet, you kind of have to take care of yourself. Like when I have to get Paco out for a walk, I'm like, I need to walk, Paco. You're right. And when I feed Paco, I'm like, oh yeah, I do need to eat, right? Like, so it's almost like if you've ever read The Golden Compass. If you haven't, it's a great book. You should read it. The Golden Compass, and they talk about this as like an extension of yourself, right? So the sixth house is about personal health and rituals and routines. And so it's Earth. It's Virgo's house. Capricorn's an earth sign. So you're going to have to really get practical. It's a practical time. Practical systems, practical day-to-day routines, systems, work, that kind of thing. Seventh house. If you have Capricorn in your seventh house, this is about your relationships, but especially about anything where you're in contract with someone. So a marriage, a lease, a business, anything like that. And you're going to want to make sure that you have clarity if you're signing any kind of contracts this year, if you're marrying this year. You're going to really want to have clarity about the long term, because Capricorn is so practical. It helps them to have that practicality in those relationships and balance. So communication and knowing that whoever you're going into partnership with is also a hard worker, because if you have Capricorn in your 7th house, you are a hard worker around those things. And so you need someone to match that. And if they don't match it, it's okay if they don't match it in the same exact way, but they have to match it in some way that's equal to what you're matching it with. So if that makes sense. So this year is about communicating what your needs are in relationships, and also doing the hard work, whatever it is, putting in the work and making sure that the person you're in partnership with also is putting in the work. 8th house. If you have Capricorn in your 8th house, come here, Falk. If you have Capricorn in your 8th house, this is about, this is the house of transformation, magic, the occult. Is also about healing, helping others heal, and healing yourself. We heal ourselves so that we can help others heal. And one of the things about the 8th house is it's a water house. So with Capricorn being an earth sign, it's double feminine. And so you're really going to want to spend some time doing some deep healing work, either with someone else or just by yourself, taking time to go deep within and travel to the depths so that you can bring this healing to the world. And it also has to do with other people's resources. So this could be a time, since it is Capricorn, and Capricorn has to do with parents, has to do with society and government. You either A, might be getting some money, or you B, might be losing some money. And there's no way to really say which is which unless we looked at your chart and looked at the aspects and all the things. And, it's not, one of those things about that is it's all about the lessons, right? And it's all about the lessons that come in. And if you can keep it to that, then you won't be scared of either losing money or, anticipating that you're going to get some money and then it doesn't come through. Money is really just energy. So it's like you might be getting some energy and you might be giving some energy to something in your life is probably a healthier way to say this. And when I say that, I also, since it's opposite the 2nd house, which has to do with personal boundaries, the 8th house has to do with, yes, having personal boundaries, but knowing that the life is about alchemy through others and through kind of mingling energy. So that's why we say it's also about sex, but sex is also energy as well. So okay, we're moving on from the 8th house, but it's a little complicated, that 8th house. So I had to spend a little time there. So the 9th house, if you have Capricorn in your 9th house, this has to do with learning, teaching, expansion, travel. And so you might come up with some systems, or, you might come up with, a company that allows you to travel. Or, I think about people who rent out their house and then or do housing trades in other countries or things like that. Like something like an opportunity like that might come up. It's all about expansion. Jupiter in your 9th house, since Jupiter rules the 9th house, it's really, you want to really pay attention to where the opportunities are. There's lots of opportunities if you have this transit happening. And you don't want to miss them. You don't want to be in fear, because Capricorn we can restrict ourselves because of fear with Capricorn. And so this is asking you to kind of trust and expand a little bit more, either in learning, teaching, or travel, or just in ways of expanding your mind. So pay attention to where you feel fear and constriction around this expansion, and just see where it feels expansive to you. Like, what area of your life is asking for this expansion? And then just know that the fear is going to be there. Like, for everybody it's there, but you're not really supposed to just follow your fear. You're supposed to follow that trust. If you have Capricorn in the 10th house, this is double whammy as well, because this is Capricorn's house. So your work, your how you appear to the world. Also, like, this is the placement of a politician. So it's like, even if you're not literally a politician, it's like, what does a politician represent? Well, they're a mouthpiece, sometimes a really shitty one, but they're a mouthpiece for systems, for government, for the people. They're supposed to be a mouthpiece for the people. But right now we have a mouthpiece for corporations. So we want to change that. And so you might be part of that change. You might be part of a newer system and helping to create that system. So your work is really important this year. And I want you to know that even if it doesn't seem like it's big enough, it's big. Every little change that we're making is big. So making sure that you're on the light side of that and not the darker side of that is really important, because this is a power placement. And we know with people in power, that can go either way. So being aware of that. If you have Capricorn in your 11th house, this is community. This is like systems for the people that's moving the people forward. So the difference between the 10th house and the 11th house is the 11th house is actually going to lead the people. The 10th house is going to be the mouthpiece for that leadership. But the 11th piece is actually the leaders. So they are the ones that are very future oriented, really creating those systems and structures. But also this could be about, it has to do with the 5th house is so I'm going back and forth, and sorry, I'm talking fast. I'll try to slow down. The 5th house has to do with your children, your creations. The 11th house has to do with other people's children, other people's creations, and moving that forward. And when I say that, so that's like obviously teachers and leaders that are just like doing the leading, like they're actually out there. Whereas, we need it all. We need some people that are creating the systems, and we need some people that are actually leading and like out there on the streets, So that's the 11th house. And just knowing if you have ideas or visions, it's about putting those visions to work. So do that. If you have Capricorn in the 12th house, this isn't an easy placement for Capricorn. Any of the water houses really aren't, but because Capricorn is so practical, it's hard for Capricorn to understand what's happening metaphysically, because the 12th house has to do with our subconscious mind. It has to do with spirituality. It has to do with like dimensions that we can't really see, not the 3D dimensions. So one of the things about this placement is you probably want to work with healers. You probably want to work with people who can help you to get out of your own way around your spiritual growth. And this is a time for you to really expand in the spiritual realm, expand in the, you're probably a very, if you want to be, you're probably a very, amazing healer if you can get out of your own way and not have judgments of yourself and others. Capricorn overall, so that's that. So the 12th house is just the unseen, working with the unseen, solitude, taking space, and doing the work. And one of the last things to wrap up around Jupiter and Capricorn is because Jupiter is about expansion, we also want to watch our expansions around judgments or judging others. And that's one of the main ways that we separate ourselves from everyone. And that's really not the best use of Jupiter and Capricorn. Jupiter and Capricorn has the potential to heal systems, to heal the government, to heal so much, you guys. So much healing can happen because it's so practical and it's so hardworking. And then the shadow side is we can if we choose not to do that, we can just judge and separate and create systems that separate and condemn. And it can be cold and harsh. So, my hope is the rise of the healthy matriarch, the rise of the healthy patriarch, and the loss of the unhealthy matriarch and the unhealthy patriarch. So if you want to be a part of that, I'll have more on this, but I'm going to do a monthly call. I'm going to do less of the house by houses and more of a monthly call with you guys to go over the planetary planner and to like give insight and information based on the planner. And have it be a group call where we can converse and share ideas, and really I want to create that community. So if you're interested in that, definitely just stay tuned to my newsletter. I'll have an announcement about that once I'm I feel like I just got my head out of the planner, and now I'm gonna like start envisioning what that's gonna look like for that 2020 vision and creating that community around it, so that we're all, because I know myself, like I even looked at the planner, I'm like, I'm gonna use this too, and then I'm like, oh, it's a lot of work. Like there's a lot of journaling in it. It's really pressing you to do the work, right? And so for me, it helps to be held accountable. And so I want to create that community for all of us. So I will have more on that. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you're interested in working with me, definitely reach out. I have the link below. And just know that when we have this ingress of Jupiter, such a big, expansive planet, we are going to feel it. And so just be open and be alive in your body and your mind. Wake yourself from the sleepy slumber of all the bigger things that are happening in our world, and just pay attention to what's right in front of you and just see what appears. So have a beautiful day.